Welcome to SunnyBrook Smart Learning. Be smart, be fun. Learning is smart and learning is fun. For our topic today, reading and the brain, why people don't read these days, my guests are Jap, Karen, and Angela. Why don't people read these days? What do you think, Karen?
Oh, I think it's the use of gadgets, the availability of all these shows online or TV shows. So nobody takes the time anymore to read. Plus, everybody's in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I think reading a book, you have to like really put time, sit down, and then really concentrate on the task. So I think that's why people don't read anymore.
Right, yeah. So, Jab, do you still find time to read?
I hope I have time po. Because right now I have 3 subjects. So what I'm reading right now are journal articles, news reports.
Difficult read, ah?
Yes, ma'am. So I hope I have time po for reading for pleasure.
Fiction.
Yes,
yun
ma'am.
yan. Oo. When was the time, Angela, that you read the most?
Read the most?
These days or when you were younger?
These days, actually, when I was older.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maraming time.
my problem back then was access to books. And especially a variety of books. So
Right,
most of the
yeah.
books I had back then were textbooks. So of course, for me, they were boring. Versus when I was in college or until now, that I had more access to books and I'm able to buy more books.
Yeah.
So I can pick the ones that I really like, and then
that's-
I can dedicate more time on
Just
reading.
to afford the books is
Yeah.
also
Yes.
important, di ba? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, why is reading important? I put down here at least 5 reasons, no? Reading develops your mind. Without reading, the development of your mind is stunted. Yeah.
Yes.
Secondly, reading trains your attention. Yeah? Because you have to have a good attention to be able to read word for word, line by line, and so on. Thirdly, reading boosts your communication skills. The more you read, the better you will be able to communicate with people. Number 4, reading cultivates your imagination, particularly fiction, classics and so on. They bring you to different places and so on. You can just imagine the houses, the huts, and so on. No? Fifthly, reading brings you pleasure. Diba? You enjoy reading. After reading a good story, you feel good, you feel inspired, and so on. No? So, do these resonate to your mind when you were reading? Yeah, do they resonate with your experiences rather when you are reading? Which of these you feel is the most important for you while you are reading, Karen?
I think the cultivating my imagination. I think when you read, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, you have to like really be connected with the text and you have to interpret it. So if you are not like concentrating on the task, sayang, you won't be able to imagine what's happening. And I find this like one of the best things for me. That's why I love to read. If I had more time, I'm probably reading more. Because parang it takes you places.
Correct.
Yeah. That's for me.
The difference between watching the television and reading is that because the television already brings you the place and so on, so you're confined to whatever the director feels is a setting. But when you're reading, you can imagine on your own where it is, how it looks, and so on. Yeah. How about you, Jap? Does any of this resonate with you?
I think po number 3, reading boosts your communication skills because admittedly before, I really have very poor vocabulary. So when I'm reading talaga, I try to get the vocabulary words, especially those words that are not familiar with me. I write it down, then I'll check in the dictionary, and it really adds to my vocabulary. So whenever I post, for example, on Facebook, I use these words because they said kasi in order for you to really to put it in your long-term memory, you really have to use it like 3 times, something like that.
For you, it's a word. No, for me, a phrase. Sometimes, if a phrase is written so well and so good, the author is able to put something together and it sounds so well. It sounds so nice. Yeah, I like to copy them. How about you, Angela?
For me, the most important would be the first one. Reading develops your mind. Well, especially with the work that I do, our parang a motto that we have is you also learn by using language, something like that. So you use language to learn, and you learn using language. So when you read, it's parang the same with them. It adds to your abilities, and then it assists your imagination. So it kind of also, parang for me kasi, reading is an exercise for yourself. It's a long text, and so you use your imagination to make it more compressed, to make it integrative. And then, in connection to what you said, that sometimes there are phrases that so nicely written. So that's why I also think na reading is an exercise for yourself. Because for some people, that doesn't mean anything. There's no beauty in those words. But for you, even the placement of the words are beautiful.
One after another, no? By the way, Angela is a speech pathologist. So she works with children who have problem with speech, but you also write very well. So does the reading help you in your writing?
Yes, ma'am. More than I think I'm also at the stage na more than the content, I also notice yun nga, how the
style,
how the message was written, because it also speaks about the author, know, how he thinks, how he or she thinks, and how it's different from mine.
Good. So, but even before a child can read, he should have the following. No? First, awareness of the world. Even before of the word, he should have awareness of the world. So exposure for the children is very important. No? For example, if he has not seen a ball, he would have problem of understanding ball because he has not seen the car, the sky, and so on. So a child confined in a very constricted place will have problem of reading as well. No? Secondly, the ability to pay attention. That's a very important skill, paying attention. And of course, the short-term and the long-term memory. So you see, reading and cognitive development is very much correlated. Because it needs these things that are cognitive demands, the attention, the short-term memory, the long-term memory. But there's a difference between learning to read and reading to learn. So somehow we still continue to learn to read. No? When you were exposed for the first time to read journal article, that's a completely new genre. You are still learning to read. So technical writing is very different from story writing, for example. But mainly, we also read to learn. The more we read, the more we learn about matters, no? So, I'd like to ask Angela, no? Since you are a speech pathologist, this first ability, phonological awareness, is very important for children to speak and to read, no? So, understanding sound units, segmentation, blending, and so on are prerequisites for a child to be able to read. So what are some of your observations in your clinical practice?
Okay. So I deal with both children who have developmental disorders. So sometimes this skill does not come spontaneously to them. And there were some of my clients have delays. So it just takes time for them to mature and exhibit these ones. So my observations would include sometimes when you ask them, when you would tell them that this word has a sound at the end, it doesn't mean anything.
The S sound.
At the end. Okay, parang, that's one, especially when you're trying to teach phonics. For example, a letter B. That's a bat. So it's a B sound, bat. They play with it, bat. But sometimes, yung concept that this one, that B sound is separate from the rest of the word.
The P sound, did you say? The P and the S.
Yes, ma'am. But then, what I also observe with some of my kids who learn reading somehow spontaneously was it comes with development, that you actually notice that there are sounds that comes first and that there are sounds that are at the ending.
So these are innate, no? Like M is very early primary sound.
Yes.
Mama, mother. That's why all over the world, mothers, mom, comes earlier than father.
Yes.
How about the second ability is decoding, converting printed words to sounds. So when children see letters and words, do they convert it quite automatically to sounds to be able to read? Is also very difficult for some children. Yeah. And the third is to access the meaning, just understanding the word. No. So even before we look up at the dictionary, what is more important would be, are they able to hear the differences of sounds? Are they able to convert this black and white thing to sounds before the vocabulary? Now, sometimes these are not, what they call this, paid attention in primary school, diba? In kindergarten and so on. Parents or even teachers think that having large vocabulary repertoire would mean they are good readers, when in fact they probably have not been able to read. So there are people who can read but cannot pronounce naman, cannot speak, right? So Karen, you had experience teaching preschool, diba?
Yes, yes.
What have you observed to be something that was not right, or something that was not practiced correctly in some preschools?
For me, for my experience, I think one of the things that all preschool teachers notice are children learn words not really with how you were saying it, like letters and then the words. It's more logos.
Logos.
For example, they know that the picture of Jollibee is Jollibee. It's famous. Or M is McDonald's. But then when you try to convert it to separating the sounds, parang there's a disconnection na.
Yeah, that's very interesting because they only see images but not the letters.
Yes. So parang they in a way that's reading at the beginning years. Parang they know that they can translate these images, a picture of just the face of Jollibee or just the M of McDonald's into a word. They can say it. But when you move it na into like a letter, parang there's confusion. But I think they start naman talaga with symbols and images in a way.
Yeah.
So yun, that's what I noticed.
So the preschool teachers and parents have to pay attention to all of this, right?
Yes. Very much.
Yeah, because we are in a digital age, age of image.
Yes.
Sometimes we forget that words are important too.
Yes.
Yeah. You cannot put everything
into
in
pictures.
picture.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I read an article which says that people these days can write a whole story using emoji. I just wonder if, punctuation, grammar, and prepositions are important. I don't think they would
preposition
be.
Especially.
Now, reading to learn involves these three following things: building wide vocabulary, building stock knowledge, and to use important cognitive processes. How did you build vocabulary? Do you know that for children, every year they can pick up 2,000 vocabulary words? How about us?
What happened to me? What happened to me?
How about adults? Does it,
They just immerse in the adult world and they can pick up so many words, vocabulary words. And so rather than using the same words all over again, repetitive, redundancy, we should use different words, even for feeling words, diba? Hindi lang happy and angry or sad. Yeah, there are differences in happiness and delight and ecstatic and so on. No? Secondly is to build stock knowledge. If we do not have a good stock knowledge, we'll have problem of reading to learn. Right? If you are, for example, if you are not medical people, doctors, and you read the medical journals, it would be very difficult for you because you don't have the stock knowledge of that. or even the vocabulary words, no? That's why we specialize in certain reading because of the stock knowledge that is already available. And then the third thing are the important processes in the cognition: selection, organization, and integrating. Let's just talk about selection. When you read, do you mark, do you highlight, and so on? Do you know what is important and what is not?
Depends.
Depends on the content.
Yeah, because children will highlight everything.
Correct.
They don't know what is important, what is less important, and so on. Now, sometimes we give PowerPoints and so on. There are many things, but you cannot catch it. You still have to take notes of the notes.
Yes.
What is the most important, diba? So, what are some of your practices in when you reading? Let's say you're not reading journal articles that are very difficult, but you are reading textbooks, and hopefully you have a personal copy of the textbooks. No? How do you highlight, for example, a job?
Opo, on the side, for example, there's a paragraph. I try to make an parang graphic organizer of it.
Talaga?
Like for example, now I have a reading subject po kasi, and we're talking about theories, ganyan. So the stages po is in paragraph form. So what will I do is I will make a table of it on the side, and just put the keywords po for each stage.
So sometimes I test my students, no, in this master's course. I let them read an article. This is in the class teaching fundamental subjects, reading, arithmetic, and so on. And then just make an outline. The whole article is already there. I'd like to see the outline in 3 layers, no? 3 levels, and so on. So we would understand whether they know how to select, and then how to organize, and then perhaps to make a synthesis at the end. No? So how do we teach children to select what is important in reading and what is less important, and how to organize their thoughts? So what do we need to teach them? No? Do you have some experiences teaching reading with young children?
Now I'm teaching also high school. So what I noticed especially from my junior high, coming from elementary and then they're in grade 7. So they're bringing with them, yes, they have vocabulary, and then like you mentioned a while ago po, it's the stringing these words together that they find difficult. Parang yes, they have this vocabulary, spelling good, but pagdating po ng high school kasi it's putting all these things you learned na in elementary and then writing na. So when we read text, for example, short or long, parang I help them by first select a highlighter that you like and then highlight only the words you don't understand. So I do that first. And then after that, we play a game with it or whatever. And then when that's done, I let them go back to the text and use a different color. And then we try to find like important characters. And then ideas and then concepts. Because I also noticed what you mentioned po, they're having a hard time finding important details. Parang which are important. For them, it's all important. So parang it's helping them parang ito muna, parang ano. So you have guide questions first. Like what was the turning point in the story? And then they highlight that. Parang,
questions will help them to understand.
So that's what I do po in my high school classes.
You mentioned a few good techniques, different colors for different, or different shapes. Like this is a triangle, this is a circle, which means this is a question, this is an answer, and so on and so forth. No, and the fact that to be able to read means you have the whole world of books, no? A library. A library used to be one of my favorite places. Do you still visit library, Angela?
So yes.
A lot of times.
All the time.
Yes.
Can you imagine when I go to the library? So these days people don't go to library anymore.
True.
And the bookstore is not selling books, they're selling
they go
stationery.
to coffee shops.
Correct.
Oo, yeah.
Maybe because of the impression of the librarians before. Di ba sabi nila, librarians are like masungit, they want silence. But now po kasi students would like to, pero ngayon kasi students would like to chat with each other, collaborate. Kaya po, it's important that in the library there's a space for group
meeting up.
meeting area. Because if it's the usual setup lang na there's books and tables, bawal mag-ingay, students would not want to.
Kasi nga po, I think it's also important, no, when you read something, then you stop, you need to talk to someone about it to let it marinate.
Correct.
Diba?
Parang processing time, jellying.
Interaction.
Yes.
The teacher should accompany the children to libraries and answer questions quite easily. Now, parents should bring children to bookstores because these days you can sit around and read the whole book and enjoy all kinds of books without sometimes having to pay for them.
Yes. Correct.
I hope that more parents bring their children to bookstores rather than to the malls or But do you know that digital technology also helps us to read more wider in the sense that there are many free downloadable reading of novels, of textbooks that are legitimate and you don't have to pay. It depends how you use your internet, diba? If you have downloaded books?
A lot, ma'am. Actually, some textbooks that I find relevant for me, I got from the...
So affordability is no longer an issue for many people, right? Yeah. And however, there are people who really have problem of reading deficits, or dyslexia. And we have 3 different sets of causes. The first are the linguistic causes. The second, non-linguistic causes, and then the third are the social cultural causes. Now we will go quickly with the linguistic and the non-linguistic because these are very specialized topics, but we are going to concentrate on the social cultural causes as well. Linguistic causes are, for example, inability to sound out words in one set, delayed hearing and seeing, like what Angela was saying, or even memory deficits. These are all linguistic causes of not being able to read well. The second sets are non-linguistic deficits, inability to detect and discriminate sounds in rapid succession. When they are quick, they cannot hear na. And the third is poor detection of visual motion. When they read, they lose the line. When they because they have a visual perception problem. So these are causes that should need more specialized professional intervention, right? But these social cultural causes, for example, the social condition of family, poor parental support, absence of literature at home, this can be changed, improved, done, diba? And the school has limited teacher training, large class sizes, inadequate reading instruction, and then the home language use. If all the things that the parents are using at home are cuss words, or very a few vocabulary words, puro emotion, strong emotion, sighing and so on, then they don't hear a lot of language, diba? And then the displacement of time on games and social media is one important reason, very huge reason why children are not reading, because they're playing games and doing social media. Yeah. So among these social cultural causes, what have you observed among them that are true of your students or your clients or friends or your relatives, no? Jap, did you notice any of this that had affected the reading ability of children?
Yes, ma'am. For me po in school, because right now po I'm having reading intervention for kids. I have grade 4 pupils po who cannot read So we start at the very beginning, letters, and they are like 20 in my class po. In the whole grade level po. So I'm giving them intervention after school. One thing po that I noticed po is they read but syllabic. So I think they were taught po ng babe, bibobo pa rin. And I think teacher training is very important for that, to remove that concept already, to change the instruction of teaching.
Whole word.
Yes, whole word na po siya. And large class sizes po really affect the reading instruction po, because for example in my class I have 45. So it's really hard to teach these children how to read, especially when we have, for example, storytelling, because not everyone has the chance to participate na po because of limited time. Tapos ang dami-dami pa nila. Tapos they have different levels pa. So very different po yung skills nila, yung abilities nila. So it's really hard to adjust.
Because in public school, no, these problems are perennial. And that's why children have very low reading proficiency.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even the materials po are limited.
Right, yeah. How about you, Angela? Did you observe your patients or clients, some of their families do not have a good provision of reading literature and so on?
For our case, not really on, say, they cannot afford
because I'm sure they
buying
can.
books.
They can.
Most of them can. It's actually the content or the structure of stories that's difficult to find.
Yeah.
Especially if they have developmental delays, so they have limited vocabulary, cognitive abilities are limited. So most of the time we start with really short stories with really basic story grammar elements, as we call them, so they can digest the stories very well or effectively. Those were difficult to find.
Right. Yeah.
So
then, in other words, we need more good writers of children's material. Yeah.
Yes, and I think we underestimate yung very simple stories that, you know, when you flip, you find almost the same story. The lizard went here, and then the next part would be the lizard went there. But those very repetitive somehow. But those were very important, yes, especially for the developing ones, because as we talked earlier, cognitive processes are developed that way, that you stay in that whole story, even because the content is easy to understand. It's just the same thing.
I think it's pattern, no? They need to see patterns of good sentences repetitively, no? And then developing the thought idea.
Yes, and at the end, so it's easy to integrate. The lizard went to many places, and these are the places he went to. So you can manipulate their knowledge. So it has a lot of potential, even those simple stories.
Yeah.
So not everybody can write children's books.
They have to know these things.
They have to know the language structure and so on to be able to help them learn good sentences, right? Yeah, it has been a very interesting talk with you, with your experiences in teaching reading and speech and so on. I remember a word. Words are very important. Words, the way we say things, how to phrase it, is very important. In fact, it makes me recall this verse from the Bible. It's from Proverbs 25, verse 11. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Wow. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Every word is very precious. We should not have a contempt for words, and then make words cheap. We have to choose our words very well, to be able to communicate well as well. Thank you for watching SunnyBrook Smart Learning. This has been Dr. Grace Koo. We hope to see you again soon.